Hello, and welcome to Rallying the Forge. I'm your host, Sol. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Rallying the Forge. I'm Solimer, and we have, I guess, really a part 2 now to deck openings for set 4. I opened 12 more on stream and only had, I think it was 6 decks that I thought were interesting, so I was like, let me pull some more boosters. I did that off stream. I opened 6 more and got a bunch of somewhat interesting decks. So we're going to go through all that. I think I've got 14 now. So we've opened a total of 30 boosters. And so that is 120 decks. And I've had, 27 decks that I thought were interesting. So that's just under 25% rate overall. So 1 in 4 decks is interesting enough. There's definitely, like I said before, plenty of other decks that are interesting that I'm just not pulling aside, or maybe I already talked about something that's very similar to it type of thing. So let's get into it. Let's look at these. And again, I'm not going to go through every card like I did on stream. I'll just point out some of the cards I do like and what I was thinking with it. So we're going to start with Necrium. I think they had the most this time. So we'll start with Necrium. And again, I'm not going to cover much on the Forgeborns, but you'll be able to see them when I tap through the decks as we go through it. So this list here, this one is interesting because it has a Betrayer Magnetist and it's vicious. So we have a Vicious Strider, which gets up to 26-21 stealth. Vicious Magnetist, 22-22, also stealth. So like that's really cool, kind of unique. Then we also have a Stoic Phantasm, which gives something else stealth, which is good. And then, of course, we have some, you have the Harbinger that gives stealth as an augment. So, obviously looking into stealth synergies here, finding a pair with it with some creatures that you'd want to give stealth to with the Phantasm or the Harbinger. So really, really like this deck idea. So that was the main thing of it. Obviously, there's Necrofang, which is the Dr. Frankenbaum ability, which I really like. So that already is really nice. And I mean, if you get to cycle 3 with these two guys out there, it's going to be real hard for your opponent to really win unless they've got you at a low enough health. They can just get around that. But if you've got good health, getting in with these two guys out there, you're in a really, really strong position. So I really liked it. And not to mention, you got some control in there, destroying level-gated creatures. But overall, it was a really interesting deck. Really liked it, so I pulled it aside. Really excited to see what we can come up with that. Then we have Toxis Mori deck here, and this one, I feel like this one was just the one where it was just kind of good stuff all around. Corrosive Plaguebearer, Fuseuse, the Leeching Bubbler, Queen's Assassin, Soul Scourge Grimgaunt. For this one, I think I felt like that was maybe potentially the weakest card in the deck here. The Soulthirst Harbinger and Vicious Fiend. So that gets up to 25-24. And then the spells, Necrofang, Summoning Horde, and Vampiric Hunger. Like those spells. Overall, I just liked the deck. I liked every card in the deck. Nothing stood out as for a strong synergy that's just going to take over the game or anything, but there's just no bad cards, which is always good. That means when you're drawing them in your hand, you're going to have some consistency of you at least don't have a bad play. There's going to be times where there are bad plays, and it's, you get all that level 1 hand in cycle 3 or something. But overall, when you're drawing these early in the game anyway, you're going to have choices, good choices, excuse me. So that's why I picked that one. So the next one is a Nyx deck, and with this one, we have this one has the a corrosive siphoner, which I really liked. I saw someone use that against me, and their level 2 was basically able to ward wipe me almost. So it can be a really strong card in that regard. You have Endless Hunt, which reanimates warriors, Feeding Frenzy, Rite of the Fallen, and Summoning Horde. So there was a strong minion with the spells anyway, synergy going on here. I thought once I saw the spells, I was like, oh, this could go really well with a Darkforged Biologist deck. Pumping all the minions up. You have lots to play, and these creatures aren't horrible. They're not bad. Some are, an augment. You got Pipwick, of course. A Bubbler's a good sized body. The Fuzus is a great card. So maybe a Biologist deck with some warriors for the Endless Hunt to pull stuff back to give you more options. But a Corrosive Siphoner, Fuzus are not bad warriors to pull back. So I liked it. I thought minion synergy right away. Don't know how strong minion decks out of set 4 are going to be, but there's definitely some potential there. There's, you could pair it with a Steel Eye Researcher from one of the previous sets. So a lot of options with this deck, I think. I feel like these cards aren't bad, and they lend a lot of support capabilities to whatever strategy you end up going with. So I like that deck as well. This one is a Blighted Sunder deck with Dark Flame. So I mostly liked it because it has Dark Flame, but it's not a bad Darkforged deck. You have a Darkforged mech, you have the Warped Strider, and you have Darkforged Loyalty. So it's a little light on the Darkforged stuff. So for the abilities, can you damage? Warped will damage yourself. Darkforged mech, when you play him, can damage you. So you might need to pair it with another Darkforged deck to make sure you're going to get those abilities, or not use this Forgeborn, because their abilities, they're not other than Warped. Warped is definitely hitting you every turn, but Darkforged mech is a one-time thing. Darkforged Loyalty is not hitting you for any damage. It's just free if you're lower in health. But the other things with this deck that I saw that I thought about is you have KC Kid, and he can reanimate creatures. And then someone, Ankh, had mentioned in chat about Soul Scourge Grimgaunt being pulled back after combat and coming back into play with getting huge bonuses of stats because of all the combat, everything dying in combat, basically. So KC Kid can help with that. He was using Endless Hunt with it because it's a warrior, and I don't think I drew any of those combinations, but I do have the KC Kid and Soul Scourge Grimgaunt, so that was a neat little thing there. But there are some things to play minions here with Summoning the Horde that Forbidden Rite can give you minions. So it was just an interesting Darkforged deck. Definitely not necessarily top of the line, but interesting enough for me to pull to the side just to say, maybe. Never know. So there's that one. And then another Necrim one here with a Nyx. We have a Betrayer, Island Northwind, which just neat to have a Betrayer. This one, though, just has a lot of good stuff, I think. You have the Black Cherry Dread, which is an augment. You have the Wit, which is an augment. You have the Harbinger, which is an augment. You have Ravana Bloodshade, who wants warriors. KC Kid is a warrior. The Strider is a warrior. I'm not sure if she is a warrior, so she's also a warrior. So you've got everything's either a warrior or augment. Is that right? Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, warrior augment for all the creatures. And then you have spells, Horde Convergence. So if you paired it with another deck with augments, you'll have more opportunities to utilize this. Rite of the Fallen allows you to reanimate. Casey Kid also reanimates. And then Vampiric Hunger is the Sacrifice Chamber on a stick. So every card in this deck synergizes and is usable, while maybe not necessarily the strongest. Island Northwind as a warrior, I'm not big on her. Maybe in the right deck, but she's a warrior, so she's not horrible. Are there better warriors to have? Certainly. But, overall, I thought this deck was fairly decent, and it'll be interesting to try and build something with this with warrior synergy and augments. Warriors and augments. So, I liked it. So that was the last Necreum. Now we're on to Utera. Had the second most. And this one, really, I think this was my first core I pulled from pulling packs. I did get a core in sealed, I think, at some point. I believe. I'd have to look again, but it has Dozer, which I do love. Has a Felon Arc, which is a solid card. Obviously, core being in the deck. The Swift Claw with aggressive. Mimic Worm's a good card, and Fortirex has good health stuff. So the creatures aren't bad. They're not knocking your socks off or anything. It's not like just nonstop monsters of creatures, but decent variety there. The spells, you have Call of the Forest, Favor of the Swarm, The Fittest, and Uteran Loyalty as a pump card. So you've got some removal, you've got some pump. This can be abused with Call of the Forest, constantly putting a wisp next to whatever creature's getting it to grow them. So overall, I like the deck. Any deck with Dozer is going to be interesting for me. I really want to build a deck and see what we can do with him, and I'm sure other people are going to have some wild ideas with him as well. So just cool. Looking forward to building this deck up with something at some point. The next deck, it's mostly just there because I got Verdantis. So, but we'll go through it. It's a Tyrant deck. This one, of course, Dozer and Core. It also has a Felon Arc, and it has Verdantis, who is a legendary, and it's when one of your creatures come into play adjacent to this, put a counter on it, remove 3 counters from it, and you get all those buffs. It gets stronger at level 2 and 3 because it starts striking enemy creatures instead of battling them. So I really like that with that card. This deck, creature-wise, the weakest creatures are the Fortirex, but he has good health, and he's boosting, so he can get his numbers up even higher, so he's not horrible. The Spitter is more of a utility. If they have exhausted creatures, he'd be good to put across from them, so he can just destroy them. And then the Everwatch, my favorite card ever. No. So the spells, you have Fungal Curse, so you can destroy some augments. You can make somebody get Defender, so it can be a decent card. And then I'm gonna try to say this right. I'll try to spell it out phonetically for me. Mycelial Discovery. So tough word for me to say. I don't say that ever. I don't even know what that is or means. It's not in my vocabulary. So this is the choose 2 out of 3 options. So definitely like this deck. Only 2 spells, so you probably want to pair with something more spells, especially for Core Kidrith, to take advantage of him. But you got some good creatures here. You just don't want to draw too many all-creature hands. You want to have a good balance, right? So need a good pair, but like I said, this deck's mostly here for Verdantis because it's my first legendary, so pretty awesome. Next deck is an Oros deck. With this one, we got the Calthor, Silvercoat, Mimic Worm together. Awesome. This deck also has a core. I drew a bunch of cores today. Didn't draw any yesterday, so I'm happy with drawing some cores. Core, Silvercoat, Mimic Worm, and I'm a big fan of Verdant Watch. It gives breakthrough and stat buff, but most importantly, breakthrough. So I love that. Again, you have another Fortirex, who's just a big health guy. Groma Bright Tusk, gonna have to figure out how to use that with the deck, but not necessarily impossible. Spells, Acidic Pit, okay, but then Channeling Axe gives a creature all creature types, so it can be buffed by Calthor. And then you have Pack Mentality, which wants Beast to give breakthrough. So a lot of opportunities. You can pair this with something that has some strong creatures, perhaps, that you need to give breakthrough to. Could be really good. I could even see him thinking right now that stealth deck that I pulled. You could give them breakthrough. It could be really good. But yeah, this deck was very interesting with Calthor and Mimic Worm and Core. I think that's a great foundation for the deck. So really like this one. This one here, this is my first Darkforge Legendary. So this is a Darkforge Utera deck with Blighted Sunder, with Dark Flame at cycle 3, but only one spell. So really disappointed with that. I'd have to pair it with something that has 5 or 6 spells just to balance it and hope that I have a lot of free plays with it. So this one's mostly here just for the Noxantis, who is a Darkforge creature. And when you lose health, put an energy counter on this. This could be so good. If I would have got a Biologist with this, that would be so good. I could probably pair this with the Omen Seer from Aloyan, where you tap every turn to play a minion still and take damage. So there's options for Noxantis to be super strong, super awesome. But yeah, that's mostly what this deck was here for, was just the Noxantis. Always love seeing a legendary, so excited for that. Disappointed with the Fittest being my only spell. It's a good spell, but it's the only one. I was hoping for 3 or 4 that would work really well with the Dark Flame, so that's okay. We have another Utera deck here with Terran. We have a Dozer in it. We have a Vicious Tracker in it, who gets to 1918, but you get to play a free creature. And then we have an Emboldened Terrapath, who has Breakthrough, 25-21 with 3 armor. So again, this was... I feel like I had a deck yesterday I showed with like 3 Dozer and 2 other huge creatures potentially. So definitely like this. This also has 3 temperamental, triple temperamental creatures. It doesn't do anything for them. It's a stat change for them, but I feel like it's a positive for them. And the Swiftclaw being aggressive can be so dangerous, especially when you have these other big creatures out there. Swiftclaw hitting them for 16 really puts you in range for one of these guys to finish them. So really like this deck. This deck is going to be... It needs to pair with something that can... I don't know what it needs to pair with yet, but there's a pair out there for this deck. Its spells are Fungal Curse, which destroys augments, can make things Defender, and then Radiant Metamorphosis, which upgrades creature cards. So, if you need to get past some lower level cards that you don't want to play, like the Vicious Tracker level 1, well, if you've got this, you can bypass that. So, cool stuff. Really like this deck. Really like the idea of it. I could have done without like the Radiant Bee and got another spell. Vitasprout, I like the card. Don't know if I like it in this deck yet. We'll have to see how the board presence goes. But obviously, if you have those 3 guys out there, you're going to have pretty good board presence. Vitasprout can gain a lot of health every turn. So, do like that. All right, a Darkforge Utera deck is next. Definitely love this one. It's got the Tangle Sprout and Biologist. Tangle Sprout I've already played with, and once you get the level 2 and 3 down, it is really strong. It's great for bringing your health down below the thresholds you may need. This one doesn't have, it's a Circe, so it doesn't have the Dark Flame, but it has the Biologist. My other deck did not have the Biologist. Biologist is such a strong card. And then you have the Mauler, which it's okay. I would have rather had the spell instead of this, but this isn't the end of the world. It's something that they just can't ignore if you're going to keep pumping up your creatures, though. So they do have to deal with it. I like the Vita Sprout in here with the Tangle Sprout and Biologist, because the Tangle Sprout's Defender and the Biologist is constantly putting more creatures on the board. So chances are you're going to have a pretty full board with this if things go right. But I definitely like it, at least in set 4 sealed. This deck right here would be a really, 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 really good half deck. How it'll play out with all the other sets remains to be seen. So we just have to see how it goes. Spells for it, Essence Unleashed is the Botanimate of the set, and then Channeling Axe gives some all creature types and does pump. So I don't know that necessarily matters here much. And then Call of the Forest allows you to put more minions on the board for the Biologist. So really like this deck. Definitely going to be building something with these types of cards and trying to see what we can do with it. All right, we're down to our last 3. So we do have an Aloyan deck here. This is a SolForge Aloyan deck. It's definitely just interesting to me. Not sure if it's exactly what I would want or not, but it's a Blighted Sunder, has Dark Flame on level 3. So it's got the Oracle, which I definitely like. It's got a Developing Soldier for some more upgrade. You have the Omen Seer pumping out minions, just like the Biologist does, but he doesn't pump them, but you want to replace these minions anyway. And then it's got a Voidsteel Sentinel for its last Darkforge card. So I like it. And then spell-wise, you have Adaptive Approach, Flash Wave, and System Upgrade. Adaptive Approach I'm not big on, but the other 2, System Upgrade, definitely going to be playing. Flash Wave definitely might be playing to help keep the opponent's attack lower, to keep your guys on the board longer, to allow you to get more things going on. The other creatures in the deck are just so-so. Age of Synth is an augment, and the Diminisher reduces attack as well, and Titanium Null reduces attack as well, or you can buff. So there is some attack reduction synergy here with the Darkforge stuff. So it's interesting, if nothing else. We have another Aloyan deck, and this one is just here because it's Betrayer KC Kid. So that is awesome. Really hoping to get a Betrayer KC Kid with a core, or a Betrayer core with a KC Kid. Looking forward to trying to get that combination. But this deck is just because of Betrayer KC Kid. That's cool. So then the last deck is a Tempest deck. It is a Darkforge Tempest deck with a Blighted Circe. This one has 5 Darkforge cards in it, which was the highest I've seen. There could be more, but we have a Blightmane Dragon, the Oblivion Undeady, Void Stomper, and Voidstorm Shaman for creatures, and then we have Darkforge Loyalty. So there's plenty there to be damaging yourself with the Void Stomper and Voidstorm Shaman. You probably still want to pair it with another Darkforge deck to really be able to control that. Maybe even one of those Utera ones I had with some life gain, so if I do too much, I can bring myself back up. But yeah, and the spells, it also has a White Fang Pass just for it's my first White Fang Pass, so just for giggles. Don't know who's going to get the first White Fang Pass victory, or if it's ever going to get a victory. But yeah, so pretty cool. So that is basically it for my my decks that I pulled out of my 30 boosters, we've gone through now 27 of them total, and there's a lot of good stuff to try to start building with, and looking forward to building some decks there. And I know some people have been posting some of the stuff they've gotten. It's pretty wild, so excited for everybody. And we'll see if I open any more packs. I've got enough to do another 12 boosters, so we might do that, we might not. We'll see how that goes right now. But yeah, gotta get some stuff built, because end of the month there is the second qualifier. So I think that's the 29th. So people will need to get their decks ready, and it's going to be interesting to see, do people stick with the, what we know the meta to be pre-set 4, or are people going to lean heavily into the new set 4 decks? And that's going to be the most exciting event for me, I think, is seeing where people are going with things as far as trying to be competitive. Do they stick with the old meta decks, or are they going to try and reinvent stuff, or are they going full set 4 for both halves and it just take it to the top? We're gonna see some interesting stuff. I will be streaming that for sure, and yeah, so that's all I got for you. Thank you for watching. If you want to, don't forget to like, subscribe, and or comment on the video. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you supporting the channel. Hope you enjoyed looking at the decks. Hope you saw something that you thought was interesting and cool. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys around and in queue and in game and in chat. So take it easy, and see you guys next time. This has been an episode of Rallying the Forge. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.